Welcome back, family. We are going to be talking more about Rome and the dark side of this particular topic is something that I have to be careful when I talk about because it does get really graphic and dark, and I don't want this video to get flagged. I want you guys to be able to watch it and learn about the spiritual warfare that was going on when believers were being persecuted at the height of the persecution in Rome compared to what is going on now and about to be happening, I believe, as we are bringing back those same types of figures, with one of them being Mars. And it's something that is often overlooked, especially now with pop culture trying to bring it back, bringing everybody back to Mars here, wanting to occupy Mars. And when you understand that Mars was their god of war, yeah, they're going to try to occupy him all right. And when you look at what's going on in the world right now, I believe it's starting to happen and it is about to ramp up. That's why so many people are waking up to how we're supposed to live right now and what we live on so that they're not going to be deceived by the things to come, especially when it comes to the new modern day version of what Mars is, when we know, according to the Bible, what it really is. And we've talked about this before, even the prophecy in regard to this so called planet. The book of Enoch prophesied that it was one of those chiefs of the stars, the ones that they deified in Rome, turned it into a god, just like all the planets. They named them after gods. We were told that would happen, and it did happen. And so they were called the chiefs of the stars back then. Now we call them planets, and now they have the entire world believing that we can land on these things, that we could just go there, and if we had enough resources and technology and inhabit them. And so that is what they're doing, and that is why they're all named after Roman deities. And so it's about to get dark, and it's going to take us all the way back to a few hundred years after the resurrection with Emperor Diocletian. This guy wearing a corona, crown in this little carving right here. But the Diocletianic persecution is named after him because he was the emperor from 303 to 312 AD. And they say he was the empire's last, largest, and bloodiest official persecution of Christianity, and that it failed to eliminate Christianity because that was its goal. They were trying to eliminate it, and they were doing some graphic things. You can see the images here and draw your own conclusions. The things you're seeing happening here were common practice, and it was dark. They took out millions of people throughout the years with these types of practices, and the inquisitions and the creeds and things that followed played a big part of making it seem like, we won. But no, the so-called Holy Roman Empire just changed its war tactic and made it more spiritual and started twisting the Father's words, creating new vocabulary, creating new doctrines. Things we're still battling to this very day, and it all goes back to Rome. And then, of course, before that, Babylon. But what caught my attention and had me diving deeper into this was a coin with Emperor Diocletian right there on one side. And I like how the outer edges of their coins have these ridges, a lot like the quarters and dimes do in America today. We get a lot of our things from Rome. We're about to see more of that. But here he is with his familiar headpiece. Looks a lot like their flag back in the day, as well as the, of course, UN logo. Little twins there. Nothing to see here. But when you look at the flip side of that coin, it says something. And it says what it looks like it says. You got those letters here, Mars, Victor. What does that mean in their mythology? Well, it tells us online that Mars Victor translates to Mars the Victorious. So while they were slaughtering believers, that was their slogan. Think about that. They're wanting to bring us back there, and their slogan was that their god of war was the victor while they're warring against the people who have the faith in the Messiah and are keeping the commandments. And if you remember our last video, that dragon, the red dragon, was wroth with the woman, making war with the remnant of her seed. We're told that in Revelation. Specific group of people, ones that couldn't have existed before the resurrection, because these are the ones that have the testimony of Jesus and are keeping the commandments. And when I say that, a lot of people get upset. I know Rome has a lot to do with that as well. I'm not doing away with the Holy Spirit or the sacrifice. I know when you say, hey, I keep the commandments, they're like, you're a legalist. The Messiah said it as well. He told people to do that. And he was not looked at as a legalist. He had the Holy Spirit just like believers do who keep the commandments today. It was never a time where I was like, you know what, the Holy Spirit's not good enough. I want to start keeping all 10 commandments. I had the Holy Spirit and I just wanted to know what makes our Father happy and pleases him. You can read his words. Isaiah 56 is a good one to look at. But right here, you see that sad aspect going on. But the thing that caught my eye again as I saw that coin and I start looking up the statues of this particular false god, I saw that something looked familiar. It reminded me of a picture we put out many years ago, and now it has gone super viral. People starting to see the connections, and I like that. They're waking up to things that have been hidden in plain sight all of our lives. But the helmet that this figure is wearing is the same helmet that this figure is wearing over here that they call Satan, that the Statue of Liberty appears to be modeled after. I'm going to zoom in on that so you can see it a little better. I had to adjust the brightness, it was dark, but it's the same headpiece pretty much, except there's an eagle here. Think about Rome and America. So you got that aspect going on. But here is where it starts to get dark. You look at the pose that this figure is making, and it looks like one we've seen in the past with the bell worship. You also have Jupiter doing about the same thing here. He's about to be someone who comes on the scene as well because he was right up there with Mars in Rome and their worship of these deities. And Mars, just to give you some history, they say he was the son of Juno, which is where we get the name June for the month of June. So there's an entire month out of the 12 months. One of them is named to her, and it is Pride Month. So the mother of Mars gets an entire month devoted to Pride now. This is a newer construct. This wasn't always around. When I was a child, we didn't have a Pride Month as far as I can remember. But right here, it says that she was the daughter of Saturn, or Satan, I would say, and Opus, and considered to be the queen of the gods. And according to legend, this figure gave birth to Mars without him having a father. Sound familiar? It's like they know this mystery. They're trying to make a play on it here with the Messiah. Mars without a father. Hmm. And then you have an entire month named after Mars as well, the month of March. And now we have Jupiter. And where this is significant, Mars, who was second to him, surpassed him during the time of Augustus and became known as Mars the Avenger. And it says here, his worship at times rivaled that of Capitoline Jupiter. And I thought that sounds familiar. Capitoline reminds me of Capitol Hill. That's actually where that comes from. Capitoline Jupiter. And at about AD 250, Mars became the most prominent of the military gods, worshipped by Roman legions. We are legion, remember that? The Capitoline Hill in Rome, it says, is named after the temple of Jupiter Optimus Maximus. I don't even want to call him his name and say this. I'll say Stupider. Stupider the best and greatest is what they called him. And it says, which was located on the hill. The name Capitoline comes from the Latin Capitolium, which was the name of the temple and also referred to the hill. The hill was also known as the head of the world. The name Capitol Building in Washington, D.C. is a direct reference to Capitoline Hill in Rome. That is heartbreaking. We thought it was founded on these biblical principles growing up, that these were Christians. Why would they dedicate their hill and the Capitol to the Capitoline Hill in Rome which was a tribute to that temple. And so when you start looking at their temples, here's the one temple of Mars, or a replica of it. Look at the columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in the front. You get your little wide triangle here. Look at that. Now let's go to DC. Compare that to what you see here in these replicas. The U.S. Treasury, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. National Gallery of Art, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You know, you got 8 in the front. Supreme Court, 8. Archives of the USA, right there. See where it sticks out? 8 of them. Now let's go to the U.S. Capitol, right here. Look at this. Same exact design. 8 pillars holding up that structure in the front at the entrance of this major temple. They have taken this stuff straight out of Rome, obviously. And you just think, well, Rome had a really cool style and they just wanted to copy it with every single building they have there. There's a reason they're wanting to bring us back to these places called Mars and to occupy Mars. And the only way to occupy a god of war is to keep him occupied with war. So that's what I believe they are wanting to do, and that's what's going to happen. They're trying to eventually convince us to war against the Most High when he returns with his beloved Son. And then Armageddon will ensue. It's not going to end well for them. Fortunately, we will be resurrected, hopefully. Hopefully, we can be a part of those who get to meet the Messiah in the air. Whether or not we are part of the dead that have already been like martyred and are resurrected and get to meet him first or second, either way will be a blessing. But them trying to bring us back to these old Roman ways, you see these things surfacing, and I've been partly correct in the past when I said this stuff comes out of Rome, things like swastikas. I was wrong. This actually comes from Babylon. That's why you see it worldwide. Imagine that. It's almost as if the people in Babylon at one point were scattered around the world and had their languages changed. That's why these symbols are in Rome and everywhere. And that's why we're told to come out of Babylon, because those ways went to all the different cultures in the world, or most of them, anyways, many of them. And so I get that there's newer cultures that have popped up, but going back to Rome, you're going to see some of these Babylonian shapes and designs and ideas and concepts and false god worship, just like we're seeing today. And so the Mars aspect, there's a reason they're wanting to go there and have our minds and the minds of our children focused on going there. Something that's not logical in the first place is because they want us to be saying the names of these deities and believing a false version of creation. And so it's important that we create an extremely strong foundation for ourselves and for our children. And that's why we have been led to start CreationStandard and put out things that do just that, that bring clarity to children who are in a world of indoctrination and technology that is changing faster than we can fathom. With AI on the rise, you're seeing videos all the time that honestly, I can't tell if they're real or fake. And that is only going to amplify what these deceivers are able to do, because the technology we're seeing is always years behind what they actually already have. They would not let us see their wisdom of the fallen technology for what it is. They want us to think that we're seeing the best of the best, and that we're getting just that. But in reality, they are planning deceptions. But the Bible tells us their moves. They know their fate. And so we need to understand that even if those Diocletianic type of things come back, endure to the end. Do not give in to their return of the Babylonian and Roman ways. I'm not trying to scare you guys. I'm not saying it's going to be like that. The Father can protect you and use you in many different ways throughout times like this and provide for his people. I'm not saying that we're all about to just get slaughtered or anything like that. It's going to be bad for them, though. They are going to get slaughtered, the ones who are against his children and against him directly. And so remember that. We've talked about loving your enemies before and praying for them, but there is a difference when they're your father's enemy and they are directly against him and wiping out his children. There is a difference, but you can still pray for them. Think about Paul. Think about all the people he was able to impact. And now imagine not only would he not have been able to do that if people weren't praying for him, the people he was killing, he would have done the opposite. He would have taken out people who could have spread that message even further. So he did the opposite of what he was doing. He went from taking them out to adding them to the grafted in family tree. And so that's what I wanted to share with you guys, just to open your eyes to how much where we live is a image of Rome, or some would say an image of the beast, an image of Rome returning. We have it. You can go to DC and it feels like you're in Rome and Egypt. So many dark things there. I have hundreds of slides, it seems, to talk about more of this stuff, but I didn't want to take up too much of your time. And of course, I don't have a whole lot of time to dive into these things like I used to, but I am trying my best to do these things before my little baby girl arrives. She will be here no telling when. My wife's measuring further along and things are seeming to speed up, so it could be any day now. But I thank you guys for all of your support with Creation Standard. We have a huge announcement coming up. It's an announcement that will require you guys to tune in. You don't want to miss it. I just want to make sure I have everything ready before we do. It is one of the biggest announcements we've made, I believe, thus far, pretty much. And so I could be wrong, but I believe it is. And so I hope you guys will tune into that. I'll try to have a link ready. If it's live, you guys can click and be notified. If it's not live, I'll upload it and try to share it on all of our platforms because you don't want to miss it. But, anyways, that's it. You guys are the best. I love you. The Father loves you. Stay out of Babylon, and we will see you next time.